Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Jing Herman. Jing Herman is the co-founder of 28 Muses, a culture-as-a-service company that builds connection and culture for remote teams. Previously, Jing was the CEO of Get in the U.S. and was a competitor of Uber, and helped to grow the startup from a Series A to a unicorn. Prior to Get, Jing was an investment banker and corporate strategist at Bear Stearns JP Morgan, where she was named Forbes 30 Under 30 in finance. Well, good afternoon, Jing. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is so fun. You know, Jing, I talk to a lot of people every single day on podcasts, CEOs to technologists to entrepreneurs like yourself. And we're going to get into these questions and learn a little bit about you and what you're doing with your company. So, Jing, jumping right in here, you've got quite the career as a senior executive. You're a serial entrepreneur, and now you're the co-founder for 28 Muses. Did I get that correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Great.
28 Muses.
Awesome. Could you share with our audience the secret to your career growth and what inspires you?
I think the secret is that I am not afraid to pivot. I started my career in finance, coming from being a marketing student and going to investment banking, which was kind of unheard of. And from finance, after 8 years, I went into tech. And after tech, I was a stay-at-home mom really for a few years. And now 28 Muses is a culture as a service, consulting company that helps remote teams build culture and connection. I think the secret is, always pretend like you're 21 years old and graduating from college and you can do anything.
I love that. And, you've done a lot of shifting and traversing throughout your career, which is exciting. And I think that's really what has contributed to that diversity of knowledge that you have and to be successful as a serial entrepreneur. So thank you for sharing, Jing. And let's talk about the pandemic just a little bit here. We've all had to make these major shifts and adjustments during this lockdown. But what's your plans for business growth going forward? And will it be any different than during that lockdown time?
Yeah, it's a great question. Pre-pandemic, we actually did a number of immersive events and experiences in person in New York City. And during the pandemic, like everyone else, we started using Zoom. After a few months, we started to adapt experiences to Zoom, just testing, piloting with a small group of pilot users to see what works on Zoom and what doesn't. Music, for example, doesn't really work very well on Zoom, but lots of things do. And so we developed a number of, virtual experiences that are really strong, that build connection, that builds empathy, trust, the sense of being seen and being heard and this belonging, really strengthening relationships for remote teams. So, it was very unexpected, but we were able to do what we do, keep the magic, but really at, much lower cost basis. So coming out of the pandemic, I'm really excited that, from what we see, even companies in New York City with offices, hybrid distributed teams, a lot of people still prefer virtual experiences, virtual team building, virtual retreats. And it's just much easier to execute. I think we've figured out the formula to making it effective while being virtual. So it's easier and cheaper. And I think it's able to be more effective because you're able to, include employees from all different offices. A lot of people are starting to include their, programmers, like part-time programmers from Eastern Europe or South America, part-time employees that previously weren't invited to team outings, fractional employees, consultants. So I'm really excited that coming out of it, we're able to, have a stronger offering at a lower cost.
That's awesome. And I love this story doing this stuff pre-pandemic and, during the pandemic and then post-pandemic, right? In fact, I've had some guests on here that started their company during the pandemic, which was crazy, but I love that transition and what you learned through all this. So thank you. And Jing, this is a technology platform. So you're obviously leveraging some sort of new or emerging tech within your tech stack or your business, right? Anything you might be able to share, even if it's a cool tool or app that you found useful?
We built our website on Card, which is a very brand new, simple, really easy to use tool, CARD. I think it's like $20 or something. So it's really simple and super cost effective. That's one thing that's brand new that I would encourage people to check out. Otherwise, we do have a SaaS monthly subscription model for culture as a service. But actually, I think the funny thing about us is that we love to embrace like ancient technologies, like, pen and paper was technology when it was invented, right? And it's actually still really effective to use pen and paper, to come back to the texture and the feeling of pen and paper and use that to create human connection. So a lot of things that we do is, getting people to reconnect with their curiosity and imagination. For photography, for example, the class that we teach on photography is with this paper pinhole camera. I wish, I could show you right now with video. But it's basically how the camera was invented from 200-300 years ago, the same technology of exposing paper to sunlight. And then we can develop it on the spot, develop a black and white photograph on the spot by dipping the paper in coffee. So
wow, that's
those
awesome.
are the technologies we're excited about.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's something that, what we get jazzed about this particular podcast, the audience, and the feedback I get is the different technologies. And sometimes it might be just the simplest of things, but it really, again, gets us all jazzed about the technology, because that's what this is all about. And the people, of course. But Jing, let's switch to the last question here. Our audience wants to know a little bit more about you. Can you share something from your career experience that might be helpful for those looking to grow their career in either entrepreneurship or leadership?
Yeah. Last year during the pandemic, I was talking to my coach, who I knew from 10 years ago on Wall Street. And she told me a story about Madonna. And when she was young, she was in the same dance class as Madonna, when they were probably early 20s. And Madonna was by far not the best dancer, not the best performer, but she always was front and center in the studio, like right behind the teacher, right in the middle, first row. And it was really her attitude of putting herself out there that really struck people. And it was very clear. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this girl is going places. So I found it just in the last year during the pandemic, it's been, with people moving to being remote, moving to different cities. The silver lining was it was so easy. It was so much easier to connect with people via Zoom, and so many, new tools for networking. So on Upstream, I created the Future of Work community. On there, in 10 months, we have over 1,000 people. We have like maybe 500 founders, 100 future work investors. And I think for me, I realized to just, and I've heard your personal story, the same, just, put yourself out there, and, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think, embracing the future of work, it just has really brought myself many opportunities, and, I wish the same for others.
Jing, thank you. And that's so helpful. And there's gems out of your story that we're able to share again with a very large global audience. So we do appreciate that. And Jing, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye for now.